Good evening, fellas. Just give me 2 seconds just to set things up. One moment. I just need to configure some stuff here. Shit. How do I do that? View screen list mode. Let me just full height docs, custom browser docs. Oh shit, what is this? Oh, okay. Alright, nice. Let's try that. Okay, cool, good. Just need that here. And I'll be with you in a moment. Yeah, not the first one. You're not the first one, but almost. You almost are. Yeah. All right, give me a moment here. All right. I'm just setting some stuff up so I can read your stuff easier. Custom browser docs, Twitch. No, this is YouTube. YouTube apply. We're gonna smack that over here. NVIDIA shares. I wish. Wouldn't that be nice? That would be awesome. If I had some. That would be badass, I can tell you that. For sure. Alright, this is super nice. Okay, good. Alrighty, let's switch to the main camera here, or camera. Alright, I guess we can see each other. That's awesome. Let me see if I'm streaming to YouTube as well. I am. Alright, good. Yeah, we have some echo there. It's okay. And let me just do one quick thing before we start. Super. And then I'll actually, yeah, nice. Alright, let me just take a look at the stats. That's all good. All right, great, super. Let me just, yeah, let's just maybe do one standard thing here. So let's just say, what is the website, right? Yeah, and I'll just pin this. Great, and then we go to the main screen here. Let's actually just take a look at this chat. Might be a little bit annoying. Should we maybe reduce the size of it a bit? Yeah, maybe put it over my camera or something like that. I actually don't know. Yeah, maybe like that. Because I'm already annoying. So that's perfect. Okay, cool. Alrighty, that's great. Super. 2 seconds. Where's my? And then we start hacking a bit. Cool. Let's keep that there. All right. So let's open up. Let's open up my. Let me just see if anyone else is signed up today. Program network. Yeah, one person. Okay. So I wanted to learn a little bit about this. Spam TV. Hey, buddy. Good to see you, man. Thank you for coming. This is from the last stream. I think I streamed yesterday. Yeah, so I'm not gonna do that now. Okay, let's go to our infrastructure for startups. Let's go to orchestrator and let's say development, right? So we're running that now. So if we actually take a look what we've done, which is just some basic stuff with a boilerplate, right? So if we go to localhost UI, we should see some stuff, right? So some stuff that we've done. And let's actually see why is it taking so long. Unauthorized. Okay, yeah, that's correct. Okay, so let's maybe continue there a bit today, and then see where the stream takes us. So what I'm going to do actually, let's start with the front end. And then we're gonna see where we go from here. Yeah. All right. Alrighty, let me just monitor one thing. Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so let's fix that. So so what I wanted to fix yesterday, for those of you who were here, reduce the music. Yeah, I mean, you should be hearing me super loud. My microphone should be like super loud. So I have reduced the music now. Let me know if it's fine, but you should be able to hear, I mean, you should be able to hear audio quality, like studio quality audio from my microphone. So if you're not hearing the mic loud enough, then it's probably your audio that you have to increase the volume, right? But music, you're probably right. Let me know if it's better now. Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I can see the audio meters. My microphone is literally hitting the peak in my audio settings, right? So if I would increase the microphone now, it would literally break through your stereos, right? So if you're not hearing the microphone properly, it's probably your audio setup, because I'm a musician at the end of the day, right? So I have set this up, spent a lot of time setting it up, so you should be hearing me perfectly. At least my microphone, right? So yeah, so you need to increase the volume. I can increase the volume as well, but then it's gonna go over the audio peak. It's gonna start popping through your stereos, right? For sure. All right, so cool. So okay, so let's start somewhere. So as we can see, let's maybe start here with this boilerplate, and then we're gonna move from there. So we can see that. Right now, basically, the service worker is probably not working properly, and also we're seeing that there's some strange state. So it's because I commented out some redirects here. So fundamentally, we're just stuck to this screen that it's loading. But let's go from there, right? So let's go to yeah. The mic should be very good. I expect it to be very good. It has to be. If it's not really good, awesomely good, then something's wrong. It has to be very awesome. Alrighty. So okay, so let's start coding a bit here. So yeah, so let's first what I want to see is my service worker. So we have some configuration here for the service worker. We have the scope and stuff. Let me actually just try to so that is actually correct. So do I actually need any of this config is the question now, because I have some sort of an interceptor now in the config. So I might not need any of this. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, so we actually do need it. I guess we need the URL, right? But we might not need the options. Let's take a look at that. We might just need to tell it the new URL of the service worker. Craft, very good, very good. I've been to work, then went to my Danish lessons. And we've been with my wife and kid. My wife is coughing a lot, so he can't sleep. So he's now with my wife in the living room, and I'm here with you guys. So that sums it up pretty much. Okay. Okay, so let's start somewhere. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the auth view here, or actually to the home view. This is a test file of some sort. Let me actually just move the mic a little bit towards here so we can actually. So I'm gonna do something like this, just a tiny bit. All right, and yeah. So let's take a look at this. So here we probably have a spinner somewhere. Yeah, over here it's most likely this one, right? So yeah, that actually doesn't matter much. And then we had this redirect thing, right? So, and we'll need to figure out now how do we want to handle the global state in this boilerplate for this course, right? So we can go with Redux, we can implement just the global context, right? So probably for now, the simplest thing would most likely be either going with the context or, implementing something like Redux, which is an overkill, right? But it's a good way to introduce it. Now, it's just if I introduce it, then once I record the Udemy course, then I have to explain that as well, which would increase the course by another hour or two, right? So if we actually go ahead just for today and create some sort of a dummy diagram just so we can work here. So let's just, actually I have some here, that's great, okay. So I have something here already, super, okay. So if we just draw a little bit here, right? So as always in every single application, right? In every single client, no, it's agnostic of the web framework you're using. You have your app, right? And then you have components inside of this app. It's component composition, right? And sooner or later, you need some global state, right? And every single app on the planet needs the global state, right? And typically the way we solve this global state is by using various APIs or patterns, right? So oftentimes we're going to use some flex pattern like Redux, or similar ones. I'm sure there's 7 billion of them by now, or we can use the context as well. And usually these are used in conjunction, right? So when you're using Redux, you're also using the context, so you can provide the slices of your state to the rest of your application, right? So it doesn't actually matter if you use Redux or not. The context is for sure going to be used. Now, when setting boilerplates like this, I mean, it can be a little bit dangerous to start with Redux because it is something that is highly an overkill for something simple, but no real applications are simple, so you generally need a state management machine. State machine, just like if you're building video games, in this context, this would be a state machine with some transitions and stuff like that, right? So let's now decide how I want to do this so we can then finalize this boilerplate and then move on to other tasks before I can start recording this course, right? So here I had to do some modifications on my service worker, on my mock service worker. So one of the things I had to do, and I had to use ChatGPT for that, I had to, here in the plugins, I had to do some extra configuration on the service worker, and I have to say, hey, if the request URL is the UI mock service worker, because now my UI in development is served on localhost UI, then we had to resolve that path, read the file, and then set the content type on it, and then respond with that file. So we had to basically tell Vite how to find now our service worker file, because it's not in a default location anymore, right? Yeah, okay, cool. So let's do some of this. So this is fine. I'll need to document this in my docs before I record it. And over here, we'll now make a decision. And for example, we can maybe just start with the context API. And yeah, this is probably all documentation. Where's the React docs? I guess it's this one, yeah. So let's search for context, right? And use context, right? So here is the context. This is the use context. We need the actual, 1 second. So we need create context. We're gonna create some global context that's gonna wrap our whole app, and then we're gonna consume that context, right? And as you can see, we can basically share it like this. We can start simple, and then move from there. So let's do this. This is and let me actually, give me 1 second. I would say that this is a good start because yeah, it just makes sense for a simple app for now. Okay, so we're gonna go to our app here, and we're gonna pretty much do this, right? So we wanna be able to share some global state with any component in our app. So we're gonna do something like this. We're gonna import the theme provider. So I'm gonna basically wrap this inside of the inside of here. So depending where I want my context to be available. So I'm gonna do this and that. So I'm gonna wrap my entire. I'm gonna put this inside of the error boundary. So I'm gonna do something like this, and then of course we need to import it. And we need to create a theme context, right? So we need to create a context like this, and we're not gonna call it theme context. We're gonna call it whatever makes sense. We're gonna just call it. Let's call this global context or whatever, and then we will have. We'll actually not have any default value. We can maybe have just something like this. An empty object is a default state. We'll see. Aidmadix, hey buddy, good to see you. Actually, I got your emails and I'm gonna respond them. I read both of them. I read both of them last night. I just had to go to sleep, but I will get back to you. I'm sorry for not. It's just very little time for anything. So we have a global context here. We've imported create context. Nice. And yeah, so and then the default value, we need some state, right? So just as we've seen here, what they did in a basic example, right? We're gonna create some state that's gonna be our default value as well. So we have to actually go in here and we're gonna say const global state, set global state, something like this, right? And we're gonna define some interface what's going to be in there. And then we're going to give it this like that, right? So this create context actually can in fact be created by, I mean, we can create it as an empty object, or we can keep it empty like this. And then we're going to provide here. And and now when I look at this, I need to figure out, so basically at this point in time, we will already need to check if the user is authenticated and stuff like that, right? So we'll already need to call an API when the application loads. So for example, we know that we're going to have a user global state here. So let's define that interface. So here we're going to say not theme string. So where is it getting this theme crap from? It's not a, so here we're going to have something like this. I'm going to say user. And I believe that we do have a user interface somewhere. Do we have users somewhere? Let's actually take a look at that. Yeah, we don't really have a user. So we'll need to define some interface here. So do I have the type somewhere? Yeah, we do. So what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to say iUser. Usually I prefix my types with an I, indicating it's an interface, right? Because it's often easier. This is not a TypeScript type of thing. This comes from C# and languages like that. I'm going to have an ID email, first and last name. That's great. So we're gonna do that there, and then here we can say user, right? Let's make sure that that's implemented properly. Yes. And then here we can say, hey, it's the user is either the user or it's null, right? If user is not logged in, so initially user is going to be null, right? And then obviously if we go to the I don't know where auth view or home view, right? This check we're doing here should be moved elsewhere, right? Because we need to do this check in a different place. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to move this thing now, and I'm gonna smack it into the app over here. So we're gonna do this call essentially as soon as the app renders. And actually, it's a little bit weird. Why is formatting working in a strange way? I'll need to fix that. Is this actually formatted properly? I actually don't know. Let me just see. All right, that is weird, but that's what it. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll need to import use query here, and then we'll need to import the user service here as well, right? So we'll do this. Let's make sure we did that. Yeah, we did. That's super. And then and then we'll go to this place here, and we're gonna remove it, obviously. So what do we have? Axios error. And then this pending and all of this stuff should in fact really be moved there as well, right? So we'll actually take this, and we might even turn this into a component or whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'm actually gonna go here, and we're gonna smack this logic in there. We should have the status and all of this stuff in here, right? The error as well. Then we're gonna do some redirects, etc., etc. This is not a project. This is I'm building a boilerplate UI and front end for the course I'm going to release on Udemy. So this is not a programmer network. Programmer network is a different. Typically, I stream building this platform, but that's not what I'm going to be doing for some streams. I just decided to prepare the course content here on the stream, so you guys can also give me some input. But this is not a. Which versions? I'm always using the LTS version, so whatever the current LTS is, probably version 22 or whatever. So whatever has LTS long-term support, that's what I'm using. All right, so this is good. Let's see, actually, so we're almost there, and yeah, so let's go to the types. And yeah, this is the syntax. Actually, yeah, I need to fix that. That's really weird. It's a little bit annoying, I must admit. And use state is not defined, so let's import that as well. So yeah, we have some irregularities here that we need to fix. I don't know why but this is now actually cursor. So that's probably why. So I might be missing prettier or ESLint or something on this machine. Yeah, I'm not very sure. It's really weird. Yeah, something's not right. Yeah. Okay, now we're getting it. All right. Jesus Christ. Okay. User is never used. Okay, sure. That's good. No worries. That's fine. In fact, actually, because we're doing this now, set global state. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, we could in theory, right? Just do this and then that, right? Of course, spreading the existing global state here, right? And why is this guy? Yeah, and then we're missing the actual a global state as a dependency there, right? But now this fella is complaining that user is not used, which it actually isn't. I mean, for now, we can just print it somewhere outside just so the variables is used, right? I'm going to handle Axios errors globally. I'm going to do a lot of things, right? So this is a course and I need to be careful of the scope, right? So this is going to be a Udemy course, which I can't make to be, you know, 500 hours. So this course is not about React. This course is called infrastructure for startups, right? So React and Fastify and these things, they're just one of the side effects of this course, but they're not the primary part of the course. I just need the solid client boilerplate that I'm building and the API, so I can showcase the rest of the services and telemetry, observability, error handling, documentation, CI and CD, and a bunch of other things, right? So I'm not going to build this project right now. The front end is going to be awesome, but it's going to be cut to a bare minimum. But are we going to handle errors in the best possible way? Of course. There's a project that doesn't handle errors cannot be treated as anything serious, right? So absolutely we will. All right, give me a moment here, please. Okay, so we actually don't need that anymore. We don't need that. We don't need that either. Then we have some issues here. We have Axios. We have checkbox, which you're not using. Great. And then we have the response, which we aren't using. So that's fine. We're gonna clean that up very soon. Let's get rid of that. Okay, let's see now what's happening. So are we actually calling an endpoint now? Or something else is farting out? Let's see. No query client side. Oh, I see. So if we take a look at this, use query. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. So I think the problem is that yeah, fuck, that's not gonna work, right? The problem is that our query provider that we're using here is wrapping these routes, right? But we're calling core count, my friend. Hey man, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah, man, indeed. Almost like yeah, I think I'm back for some time for sure streaming. I missed it, and I feel like I want to stream again. So good to see you, man. Good to see you. Very happy to see you. I hope everything's fine. Yeah, but so you can see, because this provider is not accessible inside of this file, we're saying, hey, Alex, I mean, you cannot do this. You're using basically the use query, but the query client provider isn't there, right? So it's fine, right? We don't need to use query here. We can just do a basic fetch or Axios call. I actually don't know if in this yeah, I have installed Axios. Great. Ado, my friend, good evening. Thank you for coming, man. How are you? Okay, so let's just replace this quickly with Axios, right? So that is perfectly fine, right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna just use the import use effect, right? And yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, we can almost just do this, right? Because this is, so we don't really need the use query, even though it's a nice abstraction. Yeah, so we can kind of get rid of that just for this case here. And there's really no dependency array. We can just actually, let's just do that like this. No, that's not what I wanted. But actually, let's do it. Yeah, maybe this just gonna wrap it and use call yeah. So let's do this, and let's close this crap. So let's see what we have. We have fetch user here, async function, and then it's gonna call. So this is identical more or less to use callback, right? Do you think AI is going to wipe out hiring juniors in the next 5 years if it gets good enough? No, I don't think so. I mean, we will still hire juniors primarily because we need to onboard more people to this industry, right? So you cannot not hire more people, but the expectations are going to be very different, right? So it's not that junior developers are not going to exist. They're going to exist in the same shape and form. Just the expectation from them is going to be different, right? You know, and of course it's going to be tougher, of course. Hi, I started rebuilding backend of my projects from Express to Go, and I love GoGin for backend with Gordon DB. What do you think about? I mean, Golang is. I love Golang. Golang is one of my favorite languages, and I really like it. But I mean, it really depends on your motivations. Why did you decide to do that, right? Like, why did you decide to rewrite your backend in Go, right? Because if it's about concurrency, sure, but or if you're just doing for learning purposes or for fun, that's also great. But typically, I love Go. In simple words, so yeah, do you need Gin for backend? Maybe it's up to you, right? At Dream Data, where I work, all of our microservices are written in Go, and we don't use any framework. We just use Chai. I believe it's called Chai Router. Chia or Chai, what was it? What was it called? Chi, sorry, Chi, yeah. Well, I think let me just tell you one thing. Let's just discuss one thing for a second before I continue coding. So I think one of the biggest problems that I see with some of you folks, with some of you junior developers, with some of you people who were not fortunate enough to find jobs now, is that many of you fail to network, right? So, for example, I've been streaming for a long time before. I mean, in the past, and I typically see people treating their online presence as something non-real or non-important, right? So, so the biggest issue that you keep making as juniors is that you're not creating connections, right? You're not. You have to understand that even for us seniors or for us tech leads, even for me, if I didn't have my references and connections, it would be very hard. And what I see even here in Twitch is that many of you put very little to no effort into getting to know each other. You hide behind these fake usernames, right? You often troll and talk crap. I mean, heck, even when you sign up to platforms such as the one that I'm building, right? You write useless crap, right? So basically, most of your online interaction, right, is useless. The way that you're spending time online, you are not realizing that you should try to leave impression online as you would leave that impression offline, right? So when I look at you guys signing up on this platform, and I'm sure Twitter and many other platforms, like, this is useless for you. I don't understand why people do this. Every fucking platform you sign in your life, you should try to leave a good impression. You never know where you're going to find a person that's going to help you. So by neglecting this constantly, this social aspect, networking, right, you are not increasing your chances to find a job. So if you want to increase your chances of getting a job as a developer, you have to understand the importance of networking, right? If you stop separating virtual world from physical world, and you try to leave a good impression anywhere, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Programmer Network, on this stream, right? then you will sooner or later meet someone that at least it's going to benefit you somehow, right? Many of you are too obsessed by Reacts and code and unit testing and lead code, but you forget one crucial fundamental thing. You will not get a job almost ever if you didn't have one already as a developer without knowing someone, right? So you should be obsessed by trying to impress someone and trying to contribute somewhere versus, just So this is my take. This is my take, and I think you should do more to work with others, right? Because programming is just one aspect. When 100 people apply for a position, the one that's going to get a job is not necessarily the best programmer. If any of these 100 has a reference, has somebody to vouch for them, they're already a million miles ahead of you, and you have to understand this. So you start networking as literally as now, because without networking you will not get anywhere, and this is a fact. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a factual thing. %100%. Oh, I see. All right, so what we're going to do here, right? So just as we have created this basic context, now we're going to use that context, right? So we create the context, and then we can avoid this prop drilling, right? Meaning passing the props through every single component so we can get it somewhere. And that is really the main purpose of the context API, right? Back in the day, before we had this API in React, we had to pass props all the way down manually, right? Yeah, okay, so let's go back somewhere. Let's go back here, and we're gonna consume this context, right? So we're gonna do this. We're gonna actually say user indeed, right? And now we have the user, and we're saying if there's user, say welcome back, otherwise whatever. So let's see what happens now. Did it change anything? And also somewhere else it seems that we've been requiring the use context is not defined. I see. Let's go back here and let's import this thing, and let's try again. Global context is not defined. Jesus Christ. It is actually defined. What? Or maybe, shit, I know. I probably have to restart my Docker container. Global context is not defined. Home view. Oh, home view. Oh, we need to import this as well. Crap. Okay. So let's export it here. The thing is, I mean, there's so there's no excuse, right? You have to find a way to network. There are many ways to network, right? And you have to find a way that works for you, right? That's just how it is. I don't know what a campsite code base is, honestly. Can you share a bit more? I don't know what that is. All right, so we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere for sure. What is this export thing here? We have some export somewhere. What the heck? All right, let's go here. Yeah, we have this by accident. Okay, cool. All right, so we have something somewhere. Welcome to the platform, sign in, I suppose. Yeah. And then we'll need to campsite. Are you using Tailwind? Yeah, I'm using Tailwind. Bootstrap is a very different thing. Bootstrap is a component framework. Tailwind is a CSS utility, so they're not comparable. The campsite monitor. I have no idea what is this. Teamwork meet. Yeah, I don't know what is this. I don't get it. The new standard to team communication. Yeah, I don't need this. I'm building this on my own, right? So in the context of this, I don't need this. But if I was working with a team, yeah, I don't know. So it's some sort of a collaboration way platform, whatever, right? Cool. No, I haven't heard of this, nor I'm using it. No. This is a full-fledged course, Ado. This has nothing to do with authentication. This goes from planning. There's 18 services right now we're running. So I'm gonna teach you how to use a lot of different things. It's a huge course, and UI is the UI is the least important part, right, of it. So there we have 18 services that we're gonna talk about the course, right? So we have a lot of things. We have a lot of things to talk about, and I'm just building a basic UI and the API so we can have something so I can teach the rest of the course, right? So the course is not about React or Fastify per se. It's more about teaching people full end-to-end server architecture, right? So this is more about servers and infrastructure. That's why it's called infrastructure, and less about the UI. Even though obviously we're gonna have a lot of that as well because we simply need it. But yeah. Yeah. All right, let's see. So failed with 401, that's good, that's what we expect. And then we'll just try this, right? And that should have technically worked, so we should have a cookie now set under the cookies, right? And we do, it's IFS cookie, infrastructure for startups cookie. So now we just need to deal with these redirects and stuff. And of course, now we need to ensure that if we go to the app over here, that this user, in fact, is a user, right? So we should set this user once we have it, right? So if we refresh this, and actually, sorry, we need to print the global state, my bad. So if we get over here, we can actually see that the user is in fact there. Imagine they put migration tool for Tailwind and absolutely. I mean, I don't know about that. I haven't tried it, but there's no migration tool that works 100% out of the box. Migrations are one of the hardest thing in programming to done right, and if it migrates 80% of your thing, yeah, okay. So that's great. We have our global state. That's perfect. So it's very simple. We don't really need anything else there. That's good. So we have just the basic context, and we're gonna stick to that. And probably we're gonna keep that for this course. I'm not gonna do anything crazy, because again, it's pointless to do so. Of course, then we have the redirects, and we can do redirects natively using the window location href, or if we want to control the HTML5 history API, then we should probably use a use navigate, right? So fundamentally inside here, we should probably use something like navigate, right? And then use navigate from the router, React router DOM, because technically that is a more accurate way to do this, right? And then we're gonna do navigate here, and then we'll probably, and this, so why, right? So all of these routers, for those of you who don't know, so all of these routers, React router, Vue router, Angular router, they're using HTML5 history API. This is the API in the browser. And this API controls how your browser back and forth buttons are working, your refresh button and stuff like that. And basically what you do is you can see history back, history forward, history, then you can use indexes -1, go 1 forward. And then of course you have the history length, and then you have replace state. And if you remember in a lot of these, such as React Router DOM, you have the replace state. So you can see right now, if I right click on this back button, these are the history records, right? Replace state means do not push. This is basically a stack, right? This is a stack data structure here. And whenever you push state, you push a page onto the stack. So when you go back, you pop the item off of that stack, right? So fundamentally, this is what all of these native framework routers do. They expose push state and replace state, just they rename it underneath, right? So anyway, it's, if you didn't know that, well, now you do. Anyway, let's go to navigate and let's find, did I do that somewhere else? So we're saying, hey, when you actually log in, well, you know, navigate the user to the home page, right? That's what we're doing here fundamentally, right? So if we, yeah. And of course, you can see there's another thing we probably want to do here. We want to say, hey, well, if the user, you know, lands on the UI thing and there's a PJ boy, hey buddy, I'm good, man, how are you? And then of course what we want to do, what we need to ensure is that depending on the path where you are, we probably want to, so somewhere, right, typically in these apps you want to say, hey, if the user is logged in and they go to login, well, prevent that, just redirect them automatically somewhere, right? So we can say if the user is logged in and on /UI login, right? So practically something like this, right? So, and we would also need to import the navigate. But again, the problem here is, again, that we're going to have the same issue, which is we're not going to probably have, but let's say we're not going to have access to the navigator here. So we'll probably have to do it differently. So if I do this and then we have the navigate, most likely that's not going to work. It's going to tell us, hey man, you don't have access to this context in here, right? So if we go here, you can see exactly. So yeah, fuck it. Here we'll just say window.location href UI, and then we can get rid of the navigate. So we'll just use basic built-in functionality from the browser, right? Cool. And then as you can see now, if I go to login, right, it's going to redirect me back because I'm already logged in. Snail, hey buddy, good evening. So that's great, right? That's good, and that's really it. And it same goes to logout, right? So if you find this logout button somewhere, it's very, very simple, right? So here we're gonna do this. I'm still gonna import the navigate at all places where I can because it's a native way to do it with this React Router DOM. So I'm just gonna nuke this and I'm gonna replace it with navigate whatever, right? So that's it. So if we go now and log out, it should get us basically here. And if we successfully log in, then it should actually take us back here, right? And as you can see, one very interesting thing, right? So we are using the service worker now, I believe. So I do believe that we are in fact intercepting this. And actually, if we take a look at that, so here's the, if we actually take a look at the service worker, maybe. But let's actually test that. So if we go to our handlers over here, you can see we have two handlers, and we're saying, hey, in development. So let me actually elaborate it a bit so you understand why do you want to use service mock service worker. So why do you want to use something like this, right? Let me kind of explain you the perfect. Let me show you the perfect UI workflow. No matter which framework or library you're using, jQuery, Ember.js, Knockout.js, React, Vue, Stencil, Svelte, whatever you're using, this is probably the most awesome UI workflow you can have. Let me draw it, right? So typically, Storybook for UI is fundamental, right? If you're not using Storybook, you're failing already, right? So Storybook is very, very important, right? Because you can break down each one of your states of your components into stories. So this is fundamental, right? Then you have something like service workers, right? Just the built-in service workers in the browser. And then you have MSW, right? Which is the mock service worker library, right? You have this. And then hopefully you're writing some unit tests, right? So unit tests. So the most awesome workflow here is that you obviously create your components, you create all the stories, like, I don't know, error state of a component, whatever. I don't know, let's imagine it's a table component. So table with data, table without. Let's imagine we're talking about a table component, table without data, right? So you basically illustrate all of your states of your component. And then when you're ready to build some views, right, you use the service worker. So you don't really need to wait for your API to be built, let's say, because again, whenever you're building APIs, especially client-side APIs, like which is 90% of them, you always start with the product, meaning the feature, meaning in this context, the UI and UX, right? So once you kind of assemble your view, your components, and you know what it is that you want, so we now have an idea what is the data that this part of UI requires, because ideally you want to have your API deliver as perfect data to your UI as you possibly can. So literally like only deliver the minimum footprint, not just for performance reasons, it's simply because it makes no sense to do it any other way. So once you have this idea, then instead of building an API first, you use the mock service worker like this. So you go into your handlers, and then you literally write a handler like this. This is an interceptor practically. So when your browser, when your Chrome or Firefox or whatever, some Chromium-based browser sends a request to your API, this mock service worker or service worker is going to intercept it and it's going to immediately respond with this. You can, of course, set timeouts, defer the loading of this, but fundamentally you get the point. So now you don't actually need an API to work to build your UI. You can fully build it and still use the HTTP services. You can still use Axios or Fetch or any of these libraries. And then when you're ready, you take this payload and you say, okay, this is the data that my UI requires. Let me go and create a table, let's say a user or whatever the table is, and then you implement the API, right? So fundamentally, yeah, you have your stories, you break down the components, you then create interceptors in your front end so you don't wait for the backend to be done. You can fully complete your UI and then start replacing these mocks or these actual interceptors with the actual real calls, right? And then, of course, you want to unit test each one of these states. So kind of for each given state, you want to unit test it, right? So table with, like, you get the point. So this is, in my experience, so far, the best possible workflow you can have doing these things. All right, cool. Anyway, if I actually just do this, I just want to make sure, am I actually calling, I might be actually calling my API still, because I'm not sure if my interceptors are properly set. Because I can see that if I do this, do you enjoy infrastructure as much as programming? I found myself drifting more towards solution architect and infrastructure. I don't think, OSPAM, you can be a solution architect without experience, right? I'm sure that you're brilliant, right? And I'm sure that you have a lot of talent, right? But in order to call yourself an architect, you need experience, right? You need a valid way to prove things that you've built, that you did build them, right? So these are very serious titles that you need to be very careful how you use them, right? Because being an architect or a staff engineer or whatever requires a lot of experience, right? It's one thing is sitting home or even having a few of your first jobs. That's great, and I'm sure that you're gonna get there, but it takes a long time to get there, right? And I would definitely suggest you to stick to programming if you want to increase your likelihood of jobs, because for every company needs one or two DevOps. Every medium-sized business needs one or two DevOps guys, right? So it's way easier to get a job as a programmer than it is getting a job as a, right? It's just right. So yeah, okay. So let me just double check. So yeah, for some reason my service worker actually isn't working. So if I go to main here, right? Are we in fact? Yeah. So it should be actually working. So we're probably. Let me actually take a look at the URLs that we're calling here. So it should be actually intercepting this, and it actually isn't. So why? Yeah, that's super weird. That is super weird. Let me actually do one thing. Let me go and restart this Docker container. So let me just restart it. Bad gateway. Yeah, that actually doesn't work. That's super weird. All right. So that is a bit scary. Okay, this is coming from some extensions. It's very annoying. I get that. Mocking is enabled. If we take a look at the actual service worker, right? It should be there. So service worker is there. And it seems to be here as well. So that's also correct. Test tag from DevTools. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the one though. That's the problem. Because this should technically work now. Let me actually omit the root host, right? So what if I just say this and then this? It's just due to our recent change in setup that this is happening, right? Give me a second. All right, let's see. Super weird, super weird. Yeah. Oof. I actually don't like that. And this is most likely something with Vita config, right? So let's take a look at that. Because so we have a reverse proxy. I'm running traffic as reverse proxy. So this setup is very unique, which makes it a little bit more complicated, but it's supposed to replicate production and localhost. The staging environment should be almost identical. So this is actually correct. So this delivers, right, everything that it has to. So why is our service worker not intercepting these requests? Ooh, fuck. I might know, actually. Shit. Yeah, I might actually know. I wonder if it's because of the... but still, it actually doesn't matter what client-side library we're using, right? It should still work. The problem is, though, if we go to the app now where we do this global fetch, right? So this thing now is calling auto-generated. So we've generated our client-side library using OpenSpec API generator for my Swagger spec. So technically, yeah, but that shouldn't really matter, right? It should still be able to do it. You know what? Let me do a test here. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to say API foo, and I'll just do this, right? And it's going to be a get. And we're missing a comma. I don't know why it doesn't tell us that. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do here, I'm going to go to the app, and I'll just say here, and actually let's resolve a promise like this. It doesn't matter. I just want to give it a shot. Axios is not defined. Sure, let's... Ah, crap. Yeah, but we have to create an instance as well, right? Okay, so yeah, so interceptor is actually not working at all. So we're still actually hitting our API. So that's really weird. Huh. So we have this handlers. We have the handlers here. We have the server. We have the setup server. Let's actually clear the cache. That should also get rid of the service worker as well. Let's refresh. Yeah, we're still getting the same crap. So let's sign in. I started using Fastify is incredible indeed. I'm very happy you like it. Yeah. Okay, so that is fine, but yeah, okay, so let's figure this out. Like, I don't know, because this is a very custom thing I'm doing, so it kind of, yeah, makes sense that it's farting out a bit. Give me 1 second. It's so annoying, man. So why is it that we maybe, let me actually try one thing just very quickly. So if I go to main somewhere, over here to the service worker, we can actually do options scope. And then there are a few other things we can do. Update via cache false. All right, let's see. And it doesn't like something here. So let's maybe not pass update via. Maybe we're missing a /, I believe we are, right? Yeah, but still it doesn't work. Give me a second. Did you try React 19? Yeah, I've switched all of my projects to React 19, yeah, including the one at work. Yeah, we have migrated immediately when it came out. Shit, man. Yeah, this is so tough sometimes because it's so random and convoluted, right? But in theory, this should work because we do create this, right? We're not using the compiler, no. But I think compiler is still in the beta, right? I don't know if that's fully released. Home. Crap, let me think. Localhost. Give me a second. I'm very happy to answer that question. It's just, let me try to fix this. Otherwise, I'll just be answering questions and leave the stream without doing anything. Just give me a second and then we'll get back to that. Am I doing something wrong here, though, is the question. So we have the handlers, and technically... wait. What is this scope? Let's open this composer. I think it was called composer, right? Yeah. Let's do a new one. Let's move this over here. What does the scope option do? I'm not gonna use Redux because then I would have to explain that in the course, and I already have recorded a Redux video long ago for my YouTube. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna go Redux, and also it makes no sense. It would be too heavy for this. Oh, I see what's happening. So that is the problem, right? Requests to pass outside the scope area will not be handled. I see. So the scope is actually an issue, so we shouldn't actually... So if I remove the scope overall, what scope will it have by default? By default, if you remove the scope option, the service worker scope will be determined by its location, the path where the service worker file is served. Fuck. Near code, since the service... This is because service workers can only control pages below their location in the URL. If you want to change the scope... yeah, but my API is called under localhost API. The service worker file to the root path, update the worker URL accordingly. Mock service, that won't be possible because the root of my React Vita project is /UI, aka localhost UI. Jesus fucking Christ, man, these idiots. How do we get rid of these morons? I don't get it. Jesus Christ, man, what a fucking idiot. Jesus. Okay, okay, so let's go back here. All right, I see. Server headers, service worker allowed. Yeah, this is very much yeah. This is Vita. Okay, so let's go here. Let's basically allow this, right? So what it's essentially suggesting here is that we allow the service worker under the server. So if we actually do that, a little bit skeptical that's going to work, but let's give it a shot. I don't trust the AI in this context. Okay, cool. So that potentially could do, but I don't think so. And then the scope over here could potentially be this. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, exactly. That's not gonna work. Because the scope is not here. It's under this, right? UI, exactly, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. You know what? Let's leave this. I'll do this off stream. This is one of these things that it's very difficult to debug without actually reading documentation, right? And this is mainly because so in our infrastructure, right? If we go to my Docker Compose, right? In simple words, right? Because we wanted to make the cookies work, we have the UI and the API being served not as the subdomains, right? But as part of the root domain. So we have the UI and API, right, served on under localhost alias in etc hosts, right? And this way we can set the first-party cookies and not third-party cookies, right? Because it's the same host name, right? Domain is localhost. George, good evening, buddy. How are you? So with that said, yeah, that's why the service worker stuff is a little bit convoluted, because now I need to kind of figure out a way to make it work with this setup, which is not a very typical setup, right? So let's maybe last time try to explain to this AI what the issue is. So my API is served under localhost API, and my UI Vita is served under localhost UI. This is because I have set it up with my reverse proxy traffic, so I can support first-party cookies when logging in, setting the JVT token. How do we make the service worker and mock service worker work with this setup? Yeah, but it doesn't work, man. So you see, it's hallucinating a little bit. Configure mock service worker to handle requests to API paths. Keep the service worker in the UI since that's where your app is served. Change the scope. Headers. Yeah, but I think we tried that, didn't we? And I don't think that worked. Yeah, so it did this, right, and this, but I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, exactly, right? Failed to register service worker for scope. Yeah, so this sonnet that everybody is. Good evening, buddy. How you doing? So I don't think that's gonna work. Let's try for a minute more, and then we'll move to something else. That's not gonna work. Set header. Yeah, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. All right. All right. Did we actually get somewhere? Yes, there we go. Wow. Okay, that is hard, man. Yeah, I mean, no way I would have figured this out without AI. I'm very good, man. Very good. Just preparing some course content for Udemy. Okay, so but let's try to understand what we just did here, right? I'm a bit skeptical about this. Let me actually take a look at the scope. I don't think that scope should be changed. So I think, okay. So essentially what we did here, right, was we're setting this custom HTTP header, service worker allowed, and then we're saying that it's allowed on this entire path, right? That's, I suppose. So we'll need to, and just for the sake, because once I start recording this, I need to be able to explain it properly and understand it. Let's just say, let's open the composer and let's say, write a multi-line comment on top of this explaining what it does, right? So this is what we're gonna do now. And again, it's hallucinating. I meant on top of configure ms, not the entire Vita config. Of course, I remember you, Vanix. It's just you keep changing your names. It's hard. If it was Vanix, I would instantly known. All right, that's a little bit useless, but it's fine. Okay, so our service worker now works, right? And we can see now that in development, we are actually serving our handler. So we can, how do we know that it's our handler serving it, right? We can see that I have hard-coded these things in here. So if we update this thing, we'll see that in fact we are getting there, we're intercepting these things, and our handlers are handling it, right? Give me 2 seconds. So that's very good. That's awesome. Okay, cool. So let's keep on going, right? So that's very good. So now we have a solid base. I'm not gonna spend building UI in this stream because that's typically boring for most people. But you can say that for my liking, for me to start kind of recording videos for API and UI, we're almost there. Because now, fundamentally, right, we have a very good start. And keep in mind, just for those of you who don't know, so my idea is really to create the most awesome infrastructure open source thing. So when I'm done with all of this, this is going to be fully open source. So I want to make the most awesome boilerplates for your own fully owned infrastructure that you can host anywhere. So these are all private repositories for now, but when I'm finished it, when the course is done, I'm going to open source it. And as you can see, it goes all from planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, and monitoring. Basically, monitoring and operating is observability, telemetry, logging, etc. Right? So I have already done that as part of this, right? So starting with the Grafana, with all the Grafana dashboards, right? Monitoring your stuff, creating alerts, creating your own centric.js. So we're gonna, so this infrastructure contains no third-party services. So you're gonna have everything. You're gonna have your own alerting using Alert Manager, Docker image. You're gonna do your own logging using Loki and Promptail and Prometheus and Grafana, and you're gonna monitor your Docker containers using CAdvisor, Container Advisor, right? So the idea is that we build a fully owned infrastructure that you can host on Hetzner, DigitalOcean, or actually anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter, of course, using Docker Compose. And if I actually ever manage to finish this course, next thing probably would be Docker Swarm for more like, for orchestrating more servers of the same type, right? So that is fundamentally the idea, right? So that's why we have all of these repositories. We have the API in the front end, something we're now boilerplating ourselves. We have the orchestrator, which is the most complex part, which is our Docker Compose. And then we're going to have provisioner, which is essentially, our Terraform, right? So we're going to write some infrastructure as code where we're going to deploy our infrastructure using code, right? So that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, and then of course services such as port trainer and stuff, just for, we're going to use the free version just for the sake of yeah, monitoring our Docker containers. As you can see, we have 18 Docker containers now. Actually, we have 16 basically, because I'm clustering, I'm running 3 instances of, or I'm orchestrating 3 instances of Node.js. So we have 3 instances running now, right? But you can see we have Alert Manager, CAdvisor, Grafana. We have simple log rotate, which is my own image for log rotation, Loki, node exporter, and a bunch of these other things. Redis, Postgres, Prometheus. I'm backend developer, and I created an API for very simple front end written in React. Now I need to support mobile. Do you think it's a good idea to continue using React for web and start using React Native? You don't really need to use React Native. You can use progressive web apps. So if you wanna, only thing really you need for now is this, right? Progressive web app basically for Android is using something called Bubble Wrap, and Bubble Wrap is a executable provided by Google, and you can use this Bubble Wrap, and PVA Builder is going to teach you that you can use this Bubble Wrap to wrap your progressive web app into an Android app. I did that with Programmer Network. Actually, I have a Programmer Network, as you can see here. I have a Programmer Network app on my phone. There's the icon as well over here. It's a little bit blurry. Actually, fuck, how do I show it? It's actually here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. I do not play video games nor Minecraft, so no, I have never done that, no. So yeah, but you don't really need a native app. So essentially what you do, let me show you. Let me actually try to save you some time. Actually, I might even have a video on that on YouTube. Wait. Or maybe a stream or something like that. Give me a second. How do I search my own fucking videos? Your videos. Oh, here. Okay. So PVA progressive. Because I streamed this very long ago. I streamed this like a year or 2 ago. Yeah, I mean, this is too long for you to watch. But fundamentally, yeah, I can try to explain it to you in 2 seconds. So progressive web app is, okay, let's maybe just give you all some hints here if you care. So progressive web app is a manifest-based, let me call it like that, manifest-based app, obviously built by Google, where using manifest.json file, you describe certain behavior of your app. Progressive web apps are typically recognized by their awesome offline support, and some APIs, like, for example, push notifications work there as well, etc., etc. Now, what is an amazing thing about progressive web apps, PVAs? You're going to see often an acronym PVA, progressive web app, right? What is awesome about these types of applications? Well, first of all, the offline support, because it can behave just like a native app on your phone. So if there's no internet, you can handle it so gracefully, so you show some stuff. But on top of that, as I said, you can use Bubble Wrap, and there's also executable for iOS, and you can build your progressive web app as a progressive web app, and then you can use Bubble Wrap to deploy it to Android Store as a native app, right? So of course that you don't have all the same APIs as you have with Android and like, I don't know, Objective-C and Swift and all of these languages. But if you don't need these features, there's nothing better on the planet than JavaScript right now, because you can build the app for web and all mobile platforms with one code base. So as long as you so if I go to Programmer Network, right? As long as you can make awesome responsive design experience using your CSS, as for example I did here, then you can simply, this is how the app is going to look on your phone as well, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to go more into details of this. I'm sure you can research if you just go to PVA and you read a little bit about progressive web apps. This is a good start, and I'm sure you're gonna figure it out. Of course, keep in mind that if you want to deploy apps to Android and iOS store, you're gonna have to pay a one-time fee. I believe on Android store is on App Store on Android, it's $50 one-time payment. And I believe on iOS store, it's $100 one-time payment. They primarily do this because they want to fight bots. So not every asshole can create an account and start spamming malicious apps there, right? There you go. Enjoy. All right, that's great. Super, very good. Okay, fuck the UI. We're not going to deal with that. We don't need that. That's fine. Isn't it $25? I don't think so, no. I don't know how much I paid. Android store fee. I'm 100% sure it's not 25, but I don't know what it is. Wait. Okay, or maybe it is 25 now. That's not what I paid. I paid more for this. If it's 25 now, that's super good to hear. I paid minimum $50. Actually, we can probably find that somewhere in my billing for Programmer Network. Yeah, I don't know. I remember I literally paid for it on the stream, and it was not 25. It was more. I just don't remember. But maybe if you say so, you're absolutely right. I don't remember. This was also a year or two ago. So V1 W1. Good evening, buddy. So that's what it is. I don't actually remember. Okay, cool. All right, so this is awesome. So we have a bare functionality working there, and that's great. Let me actually see. My pleasure, man. My pleasure. Again, keep in mind that let me try to convey this idea, and I hope to find you well and that you're gonna use it in the future. It's simply impossible for one person to build multiple apps and maintain them, right? So it's simply not tangible, and it's not realistic. So you want to, when building a product, you want to find any way to do least amount of work you can. It's already hard building one thing for one platform, for one browser, let alone building it with two different technology stacks and etc., right? And this is way more apparent when you need to build features such as rich text editing, notification systems and stuff. And usually on native devices, this is very different, right? So for example, if we go to Programmer Network, right? Like if I log in, this thing here, this little box that you can see here, right? This is probably the app itself. Let me show you. I spent a lot of time building that, and I have built one whole component library called Yale, and this is open source. Let me show you. So if I go to Programmer Network Organization, so I built this library called Yale, and these are all component libraries from Programmer Network, right? Sorry, components. So actually I can, where did I put it? The link, yeah. So here's the storybook, right? Let me show you one thing. So for example, if we go to source components, inputs, if I recall, inputs, and then we find TipTap, right? So for example, TipTap is a rich text editor, one of the most popular today for the web. There used to be something called reactjs and many others. This TipTap, for example, itself is based on an entire framework for building rich text editors in the browser, right? So this stuff you would also have to build on mobile. So if you wanted to replicate all the functionalities like code block and a YouTube video and all of these things, right? this is so complex, right? So with the progressive web app, all of this is going to work on all the devices. So the amount of time and effort you're going to save is infinite, right? So that's why try to aim to always do the least amount of work possible, especially if you're solo founder, solo builder, because otherwise you will fail miserably. You will fail 100%. Why? Because everyone else would fail as well, right? Okay, cool. That's great. All right. So one thing that I want to actually just read a little bit upon is the thing is always I would correct you, shoots them. The very first version of your product before you gain traction and find the market fit, it's always enough. It's always enough. There's nothing worse now for this person building an app for 3 different runtimes and then realizing that nobody wants that app, right? So when you're trying to gain, for example, these app stores are really good because you can gain customers because you're exposed. So this is more about exposure. You expose your application on a huge platform like such as iOS store, Android store, but anyway, you don't want to build it manually yourself. What the hell did I want to do? Yeah, so anyway, so because I'm using traffic in this course and I'm going to teach you about traffic once I record it, one thing that I actually just want to read a little bit about, that's what I wrote for myself, is middlewares, right? And traffic middleware. I just need something for myself. So anyway, for those of you who don't know, traffic, so because I'm using Kubernetes and some other things in my personal servers here at my home and at work, I've decided to use traffic instead of Nginx as my reverse proxy. And it's amazing. I can actually show you some insights here, but all of this is going to be in the course. So if I go to my orchestrator here and take a look at my Docker Compose overrides and stuff, so you can see I have a traffic as my reverse proxy. It's exposing some ports, whatever, and essentially it's so what is a reverse proxy, of course, in this context, if you don't know, and what is traffic, right? Well, when you have a bunch of services, right, when you have shit tons of services running on your server, you generally want to do proper networking, right? So you want your services usually to be private to that network. You don't want to expose your database outside of your server and stuff like that. But typically, you might have many websites on the same server or many services being exposed on different URLs, different domains. And typically, in front of that, you have a reverse proxy, or you have some, let's even avoid using technical terminology. Let's imagine this is a traffic officer. And this officer handles all the data, right? So there's some client somewhere on the web. It can be a mobile phone, a web browser, iOS watch, a satellite, whatever. This user here says, hey, I want to go to programmer.network. And then this guy here says, hey, I want to go to, like grafana.programmer.network, right? So now you need to have some entry point that understands, okay, like, I mean, what is this? There needs to be a service that understands what do you want. And then this traffic officer, police officer on the street, imagine a guy standing on a street on a crossroads and redirecting traffic, right? So this guy now says, oh, you want to go to Grafana. That is this service here. This is the server of Grafana. And this guy says, John here, John Doe says, hey man, I want to go to Programmer Network and sign up there and join this community, right? This is the stuff where it should go, right? So this is, in simple words, one of the functions of reverse proxies. This is what their core functionality is. And then, of course, you can do many more things. As you can see, for example, what I did for our local development here, I have localhost API, and then I have localhost/UI. So you can also have these path prefixes. So you've noticed here, this is a subdomain. So we have a root domain, host name, and then we have a subdomain here, right? But it doesn't only route on subdomains. You can also see what we did here. We're saying localhost/UI. And then we said localhost API, right? Localhost API. And then we can also match this. So when some browser says, I want to go to /localhost UI, as I'm saying here, in my traffic configuration here, if we search for UI, we can see that we have this directive, we have this traffic router UI rule that says, hey, match this service, this UI container, this Docker container should be routed to when a path prefix is UI, right? So if we take a look at our if we take a look at our traffic dashboard, which you can enable in development, absolutely not in production, and we take a look at our HTTP services, we can see here all the services that this guy, this police officer, is handling. So you can think about this dashboard here as you know, the notes. This police officer is keeping notes of all of the things that he's routing. So when he routes this guy, he writes it down. When he writes, so you can see here that fundamentally we know this is the UI prefix. So if we click here, we can see what this does and where it routes. And then there's a service. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit into more complicated things. But anyway, right? Because this is a proxy that proxies all requests. Doesn't matter if it's a reverse proxy, it's still a proxy. And what is a proxy? Well, it's just a middleware in a way. So imagine that there's 3 of us friends. We're playing Deaf Phones, right? We're playing Deaf Phones game. There's a person. There's like Joe, and then there's I don't know, Gabriel, and then there's whatever, Jane, whatever. So this would be a proxy person between these two. Joe says something to Gabriel, and Gabriel might share the same information with Jane, but he might alter what Joe said. So this Gabriel might lie a little bit to Jane. Joe might said, you know, tell Jane that I love her a lot. But then Gabriel might say here, you know what? You know, Joe said he hates you, right? So what I'm trying to convey here is that the proxy can also alter the requests, right? It can add, remove, or extend the requests, right? So for example, in our context here, what we can do with this middleware, right, configuration that I want to read a little bit upon now, is we can add, for example, custom HTTP headers to the request. So when the request from client goes to my API, to my Fastify API, right? What I can, of course, do, let's just say here request, whatever that request carries, it can be whatever. So you can see client sends a request, and then here, before this request, so this is my reverse proxy or traffic in this case, I can do something with this request. I can add headers to it, remove it. I can prevent this request to go further if some authorization headers are missing. So fundamentally, yeah, when you have a proxy server of any kind, that proxy, you can do some great things there, right? Good thing with traffic is that traffic has its own plugins built by community. So there's a lot of awesome things here that you can easily set up. For example, if you search for, let's say, Cloudflare here, you will find some awesome things such as Cloudflare Zero Trust, if you're familiar with that, Cloudflare Gate. So for example, I implemented this manually, but this is a super nice plugin where once you put all of your servers behind IPv4 and IPv6 IP ranges of Cloudflare, you can simply set this traffic plugin that ensures that only traffic coming to your reverse proxy is coming, in fact, from these IP ranges. You can actually say Cloudflare IP ranges, and this is the list that Cloudflare maintains, right? So these are their public IP addresses. So typically in your firewall, you would set up the allow rules or reject rules in your firewall. Let's say unified firewall or any firewall you're using, even firewall on your, even your. I have a professional grade firewall here at my home. I have a MikroTik RB 1011. So for example, in my case, on my router here, this is network address translation, but here I could, for example, say, hey, I only allow traffic from these IP addresses, right? But again, I'll explain that in the course as well in detail. Anyway, I just wanted to see the directives here, and actually, yeah, so we can see tweaking the request. As you can see, that's pretty much what middleware is for. If you wrote Express.js or any really languages building APIs, middleware should be a concept that you understand. Middleware really is a function that has access to request and response objects. So there's a request going like this, and then it goes through these middleware functions, and then eventually it hits the controller that terminates the request, either resolves it, responds with something successful, or it rejects the request, right? Okay, cool. Attached to the router's piece of middleware means tweaking the requests before they're sent to the service. Exactly. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I see. So these are kind of built-in middlewares that come with traffic, right? I actually haven't seen those, to be very frank with you. I'm probably not going to talk about them in the course because that's goes beyond the scope. But it's actually good that they support for example, content type is something you're going to typically need for many things. You might be delivering a JavaScript file, HTML file, or any other JSON file, right? So sometimes the content type might be set wrongly by your server. Basic authentication, that's typically username and password. So yeah, I don't have a use case for this right now, but that's interesting. Rate limit, very important. This you're gonna use almost certainly, right? Because you can implement rate limiting, and you should, of course. I mean, rate limiting you will implement on your CDN, but you will also implement it, of course, on your reverse I mean, this is called defense in depth. I was talking about this before, right? And defense in depth is a concept that talks about even if you implement the same security measures on multiple services, you should. And as you can see, it says defense in depth is a concept used in information security in which multiple layers of security controls defense are placed throughout information technology system, right? So meaning like you should validate, even if the validation is duplicated, for example, you should do it on multiple layers, because as you can see here, this is a perfect kind of explanation of a typical system in IT. You have a networking layer, you have your host, which is like your computer, a server on which your services are running. You have your application layer, which is your application or your containers, whatever. And then you have your data. So you want to validate all of these layers, right? You don't want to just validate on the data layer or application. You typically want to ensure that you rate limit the networking layer. So for example, if I go to my home router here, right, I have to make sure that nobody DDoSes my router. And if they do, I need to have a strategy to handle that, right? Because fuck my API if somebody prevents traffic even going in or out from my server, right? So this type of stuff like rate limit is typically what you're going to use nearly with every single service. You need to rate limit things, right? Give me 2 seconds to check my phone. Okay, cool, great. Okay, so well, I mean, this is super awesome, and I'm gonna actually read about this my own off stream. So let me just leave these links. I'll do this in my private time on my sofa with my laptop. I don't feel like doing it now. Yeah. IP tracking on auth too. I mean, that is a little bit more advanced, right? Because typically, like, that is a little bit difficult to implement properly unless if you're not using the cloud, right? So typically on GCP, AWS, Azure, you have these features. For example, under GCP, you have something called Shield Armor, and under Shield Armor, right, you have these capabilities almost built in. You can whatsoever use Cloudflare to implement some sort of IP tracking, but not really. You would typically only rate limit there as well. So for example, you can say you can only attempt to log in, but it depends, right? So for example, it's a tough question, right? Because you can do that in so many ways. You can block list the IP in your Redis database or your memcache store. You can rate limit on that IP automatically, right? But that part, rate limiting on that IP automatically, that is a little bit tougher implementing manually, right? Because you would need to add that IP record somewhere higher before your API, right? So I don't think that's necessary in many cases, unless you find that that is problematic, right? Okay, cool. Let's see what else. There's a bunch of shit that I have to do. Ooh, yeah, I haven't even started this. This is going to be interesting for many of you to learn about, but crap. I need to implement some messaging queue system like RabbitMQ or PubSub or BullMQ. And I decided to go with BullMQ because it's written in TypeScript, and people who want to watch this course, I don't want to introduce 15 different technologies because it's already going to be overwhelming. Yeah, crap. Okay, let me not kill my mind with this now. Alerts we're gonna have to do, and what's really left here? Okay, I'll have to do some UI, and that's fine. Yeah, this is also kind of fine. Backup persistent volumes, Postgres SQL backups, very important. And then Terraform stuff and CI/CD. Okay. Yeah, in fact, this would be an interesting one to do. Yeah. The only negative thing I dislike about BullMQ is that it's typically kind of coupled to your API. So you don't run this as a microservice, you run this as part of your API, which is a benefit and convenience, an amazing thing. And then contrary, what do you need, Zale? Absolutely, man. I'm happy to help. What do you need? Just say it. But I think I will probably end up using this. I think it kind of aligns with my vision for this infrastructure. The biggest problem is that this doesn't then solve the general messaging queue problem in the whole stack. So typically, yeah, you would have a microservice that you can then push messages to and have retry mechanisms and all of these things. And this would really only be for the API. So that worries me a little bit. Yeah. But we can use this to replace cron jobs and stuff, which is very interesting, right? So instead of having regular cron jobs, and this thing, BullMQ, is built on top of Redis, and because we are using Redis already, this is almost perfect solution for us, right? So that's why it's so awesome to actually, and you can see how easy it is to create our cron jobs. So for example, we're going to need cron jobs for regular database backups, for sending scheduled emails, etc., right? So yeah, crap. I think we're going to go with this. Yeah. And I think, didn't I already long ago build something already with this? No, shit, wait. Clicked on the wrong thing. Didn't I like start building something back when I was actively streaming? Image classifier. No, that's some machine learning stuff. AJV, web developer bootcamp, clean architecture, chat fusion. Where the hell is it? I'm 100% sure that I built that. Did I put it here? Task runner, here it is. Yeah, here's the task runner. This was an attempt back then. I don't know if I ever finished it though. Yeah, okay, I see. Yeah, but yeah, okay, so I went ahead here and built it as a microservice, right? Yeah, I did. So I built this as a separate service. So it's, yeah. Yeah. And I believe that that's still a good idea. I think we should still do that. Or should we? All right, actually, fuck it. Okay, let's actually just at least start this one. I don't know how long I'm gonna be streaming. At one point, I might just stop if I get bored. But yeah, let's move this back here. Let's yeah, this still is an issue. So I'll just update that and update this, and then I'll move this here. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's do that a bit. So yeah, sure. So we're gonna install this as part of our API. So what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna close my UI for now. I'm actually gonna probably close this composer stuff as well, and I'm going to just open my API, my API code base, right? My Fastify code base. And we're gonna have to figure stuff out. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's go here. Actually, you know what? Just give me 2 seconds. This kind of irritates me a little bit. 1 second. What I need to do, very important thing, the most important thing in the world. No, I'm just kidding. But Ubuntu. Where's my terminal? Oh yeah, cool. So I'm actually just going to do very quickly. I'll go to Ubuntu, go appearance, I'm gonna go here, and then I'm going to replace this with my programmer network thing that I built to advertise my platform shamelessly. Where is it? It's this thing, right? Yeah. But it needs to be positioned in a way. Okay, oh, that's actually pretty okay. Yeah, cool. Background image opacity. Can I reduce that? Okay, cool. I like that. Okay, good. Close all. Cool. Okay, so let's continue. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to say nvm use to use the right Node.js version, right? I'm using 22.11. Actually, let me just take a look at one thing. What is the current LTS? TLS version, or LTS version. Current LTS is 22.13.1. Okay, so we should probably update to that, but more on that another time. So PMPMI bullmq. And let's actually, if I recall well, I believe Fastify has some sort of bullmq. Let's discover if it's a community built or official plugin. I don't think it's official. Yeah, this is useless, so we're not going to look at that. Fastify bullmq. I mean, we can read some source code and get inspired. So let's see what this person did. All right, no. Okay, there's only, I think this one is maybe worth adding, which is the dashboard. And we're gonna add this, right, in development. Because the thing is, this is very useful, this bullmq dashboard, is because you can see your queues and all the cron jobs and all the schedules, all the scheduled events. You can kind of see them like this. This is super useful, especially when debugging things. This is almost like, I don't know if you guys ever heard about, what is it called? Jesus Christ, man. Never mind, I lost the thought. It'll come later. Okay, cool. So let's go back here and let's figure out how we want to do this. So we install this thing. We do have the Redis running, so that's cool. So this is how we add things to the queue. Find jobs are blah, blah, blah. This is how we create a connection. I don't think we're going to be using IO Redis because we do have a Redis client, I believe already, maybe. I don't remember. But I'm almost certain we have Redis running. If we take a look at our Docker containers, Redis, where are you? Redis. Yes, here's, so we're running Redis 7. So it's not the latest major version, but it's the latest stable version of Redis. So that's fine. Yeah, so really, yeah, we need to create a connection and then provide this connection to the workers and stuff. So that's what we're gonna do in a second. Okay, cool. Okay, so actually, you know what? Let's use AI a little bit more. I barely use AI, and that's a shame because it's very effective. So let me open my Lobe chat, my personal AI stuff. And what I'm actually going to do is this. I'm gonna talk into the microphone. So all right. So I need you to generate a nicely written class for me that wraps bullMQ connection, so I can use it effectively with my Fastify API written in TypeScript. I had an idea to separate this into a different project. I don't know if it's still writing. Let's try again. Where is the microphone? I wanted to... Ah, shit, man. Come on. Not very smart. Okay, let's try again. Generate a bullMQ wrapper class for my Fastify API written in TypeScript, and create a client that connects bullMQ to Redis. It fucking sucks, man. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a nice attempt. We saw that. Okay. Actually, generate a bullMQ of Wrapper class for fast. Shut the fuck up, man. All right. Generate a bullMQ wrapper class for my Fastify project written in TypeScript. Completely useless. As I will use bullMQ as my messaging system and also a wrapper over cron jobs. Let's see what it does. Interesting. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not bad, for sure. That's not really what I wanted though, but it's not bad. Is it necessary? Let's review it. So this is really, that's why AI is often dangerous to trust, right? Because this thing is essentially this is very opinionated, right? Because if the queue exists, return it. Otherwise, create a new queue, right? And then return that queue. I don't know why it made an assumption that I would want that behavior, even though I might want it. Okay, this is fine, right? This is okay. This is get queue name, and then add a job to the queue. Sure, that's a nice abstraction, you can say, right? Because we don't want to be writing these 2 lines every single time, right? Add a cron job to queue. Okay, this interests me. Get the queue. And then cron job name, repeat. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so I mean, let's give it a shot, right? bullMQ. So let's. Good evening, hacker. So let's go somewhere in our and let's see. I'm just a little bit worried. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that I'm increasing the scope of this. It's gonna, some people might get overwhelmed, but that's what it is. Okay, so yeah. I'm just thinking, I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, let's try something like, let's say here bull MQ. Let's call it bull MQ wrapper. In fact, bull MQ wrapper. Just for now. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Let's not lose our sleep over it, right? It's just the beginning. And let's review this. I actually don't have IO-Redis installed, or I do. Actually, I do. Which is a peer dependency probably, because I don't think that. Yeah, it is a peer dependency. I don't have it here. Connects. Yeah, that's actually. Actually, that's fine, to be honest, because we need it anyway for the Redis eventually, because and then for. But should I use IO-Redis? Because Fastify has an abstraction over IO-Redis. It's called, well, Fastify Redis, obviously, but yeah, I think we should be using this abstraction. Wait, Fastify Redis. Yeah, actually, we have that one. I have set that up already. And then I have configured it as such. Yeah, here we register the Fastify plugin. We give it some envs, right? We parse int this environmental variable because it's a string. So that is all fine. And then if we take a look at our database over here, we should have Postgres, which we are exposing through a Docker Compose override just locally. And then we have the Redis here, right? We can, in fact, actually go ahead and just smack some record inside of Redis. So we can say we want to set a hash, and yeah, but it's actually fine. So we can say field foo value can be some stringified JSON, right? We can do something like this. Key name cannot be null. Yeah, I actually should have created a key first. Okay, so that all works. Like our connections are established there. So yeah, okay. I guess we could unknown this. Time zone, yeah, we'll see. This is let's actually see what the robot says. Maybe a robot has a better idea of some of these types. It's creating a generic there. Okay, so we have a generic of T. Yeah, that's sure. I like that. I agree. Okay. Time zone, we'll see. Okay, so we have the wrapper here. So essentially, yeah, so if there's a queue, return the queue. If there isn't one, create a new one. Use the Redis connection. Actually, fuck, I must admit, yeah, I'm actually a little bit impressed. It did a solid job. These comments are useless. I don't know why it does that, but besides that, that is fine. Process queue, close all connections called during app shutdown. Very nice, gracefully shutting everything down before we fail completely. Yeah, let's maybe just tell it to write this a little bit declaratively. I don't like this. We could use promise all or whatever. Is this actually, let's actually see. So let's do something like, can you make that less imperative, more declarative, right? All right, let's see what it did. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, everything's about the taste. So is this better? It would be absolutely completely false to say that, because you know. So you can see. Actually, let's discuss this line of code a little bit, right? In fact, let's do it. Let's actually copy that. Let's discuss this just for fun. So let's discuss this code. I think it's an interesting discussion that I just introduced in my own head. So okay, let me just try to articulate myself. When you look at these two pieces of code, right, which are doing the same thing, you can see that this is a very clever piece of code, right? And this is a very imperative code that nearly anyone coming from any language can understand. You could say, okay, maybe this promise.all is not API that everybody is familiar with, but besides that, everybody knows how to loop through something. And right, when you look at this piece of code, though, there's so many concepts in it if we break them down, right? So we have a spread operator, right? And this is done for immutability, so we don't mutate the actually, in this context, it's done for the merging purposes. So we take two arrays, we spread two arrays. So this is gonna and then we merge them into a new array, right? So now somebody that's reading this needs to know several more APIs. They need to know what this 3 dots mean, which is not typical for many languages. They need to know what array from does. And then we're doing a map here inside of the promise all, which is also a little bit weird, right? So to counter argument myself, when you look at these two pieces of code, this is longer, but it's probably more readable and more accessible to more people. So you might have a team member that's a Go developer that needs to come and fix something in here. They would probably find this piece of code, even though it's imperative and a little bit longer, probably easier to reason about, right? So due to that, let's leave this piece of code that's there and let's nuke this one, because being clever adds no value, right? What tool is that? If you're referring to my code editor, it's Cursor. It's just VS Code, basically. Interesting. Why are you not complaining about the missing types? It makes absolutely no sense. So weird. Okay, that's what it is. I'll need to fix that. It's probably related to this. Yeah, Java options and cron Java options. Yeah, cool. Did we actually import it? Yeah, we did. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is a Cursor AI editor. Yeah. And in it, this view, they call it Composer. In Visual Studio Code, it's called it's called Copilot Edits. So if you're using VS Code, this similar feature in VS Code is called Copilot Edits. So this is kind of the attempt by Microsoft to quickly reduce their churn and people moving away from VS Code, right? But it's that their attempt is failing, unfortunately, but I'm sure they will catch up over time. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, this is fine. I hate these console logs. We're gonna obviously use our Fastify instance to log these things. So we're gonna use our Pino logger. Fastify comes with a logger written in C programming language called Pino. So it's a very, very efficient, very performant efficient logger. All right, to be very frank with you, I think this is very good. This is very good. So if I go to my robot here, a person that's infinitely... is this stream being recorded? Yes, everything's being recorded. I please you all, if you enjoy seeing me code, please feel free to follow my YouTube channel if you want. You absolutely don't have to, it's up to you, but everything is recorded under the live videos. I'll just share it with you. If you care, go ahead. You can find all the videos under live here, fundamentally. Yeah. Cool. Great. Okay. Cool. Okay. Let's go back here. So this is great. I like it. There's no point writing tests for this because we would be testing an external system, right? So I'm sure that they've tested it. If we can't trust it, then don't use it in the first place. The only thing we dislike is this, and in fact, we're gonna extend this constructor probably to take the instance of our app so we can actually do like app.log or whatever, right? Or we're gonna expose just the logger itself, the reference, the pointer to the logger itself, right? So we can just pass the pointer or an object in JavaScript, right, to this. So once we construct the instance of this class, we can, as you can see, we're actually already passing the options, obviously. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, let me just talk to myself a little bit here. So if I go to server and I go over here and I take a look at the Fastify instance, which I extend myself. Is there some logger class? Yeah, here it is, the logger class. Logger extends Fastify base logger, Fastify base logger, and then error. Okay, so yeah, sure. So it would be awesome if I could actually do what I just intended to do, right? So can I actually come here and say logger? I don't want to be passing the reference to a whole. Yes, exactly. I don't want to be passing. Oh, okay, so this is deprecated. It doesn't matter. Let's see what it says. Why is it deprecated? Use Fastify base logger instead. Ah, super. Ah, fantastic. That's really great. So let's yeah, so what we're gonna say as well is we can say private read-only logger as well, and then we're gonna reference the logger to this context of this class. And then what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to actually replace this with my logger, right? Because why? Because this course is heavily also focused on infrastructure. It's all about infrastructure, so we will want to see these logs in our Grafana and Prometheus, right? So we will want to see them once we get here, right? We will need to go to our dashboards and our logs as we have them here, right? So these are now my traffic logs, my reverse proxy logs, my Fastify logs. We will obviously want to see these logs when so this project, this course that I'm going to record for Udemy is called Infrastructure for Startups. So the stack is so programming stack is React and Fastify, Postgres, Redis. So this is the core kind of database layer, UI and the API. Then we have Grafana, Prometheus, Loki, Promptail. Then we have a bunch of other containers like CAdvisor, Container Advisor, traffic, our reverse proxy, port trainer for as our so there's bunch of things. So it's and of course we have webhook server that we're gonna set up for deploying our code. We're gonna use CI and CD, GitHub Actions. So it's a full end-to-end course. It's a very challenging thing that I'm doing here, is because I want to try to build a course that showcases you full infrastructure from one end to another, but the danger is defining scope for each of the parts of the thing that I'm going to talk about, because I can speak for 7 million hours, right, about every single of these concepts. So it's going to be a little bit tough for me finding where to say, okay, enough, right? So, but it's going to be interesting. Writing code, this is an easy part for me, but once I need to record, I'll need to figure out how to explain it in the course so the course doesn't end up being 300 hours. Because keep in mind, I recently found a stat that 70% of people on Udemy who buy the course never even started. So basically 7 out of 10 people who purchase courses on Udemy, they never click even start. So they buy it and they never start it, right? And this is going to be even more evident and clear. Longer the course is, likelihood of people finishing it is almost none following these stats. Now, of course, I can say, well, who cares? I just want people to buy my course. I don't care. Not really. Of course, I would like to profit on it eventually, even though most of my Twitch viewers are going to get it for free. But still, I would actually like people to watch something that I put a lot of time in, right? Anyway, who knows? Time will tell. We don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, so our... Okay, but we actually... Great. So this is super. So I actually like this. This is a very, very simple thing. I'm actually, wow, this is awesome. I like this. We can create this. Now, if we take a look at the guy that's way smarter than me, the AI, you can see we're going to initialize our bull MQ. Now, this I like, sure. We are using the built-in Fastify hook. The only thing that I don't see here is that did we expose it as a plugin anywhere, or as a decorator? That I don't see anywhere. So this is not sufficient, right? This is going to create an instance, but then we need this to be actually available on. Okay. All right, that is really awesome. Thanks. But as far as I can see, you didn't expose the bull MQ instance as a decorator or plugin or in any way. We need it exposed in some way so we can use the object instance anywhere we want, probably directly on the Fastify instance. Let's see. Cool. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can do it as a plugin. We can do it as a decorator as well. Yeah. This is gonna encapsulate it in its own scope. I don't actually like that. I don't think it's necessary. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. I don't think that's terrible at all. Yeah, okay, let's do this. Let's do this, sure. So what we're actually gonna do, because this is our first custom plugin as part of this project, again, another thing I'll now need to teach in the course, which is, again, the scope type of thing. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that, but yeah, we'll see. Wait, I need to think. No. I'm not gonna do it like this. No. I'm not gonna do it as a plugin. I don't need. So what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna do it like this. Almost like this. I'm gonna call it bull MQ. Not the wrapper, right? So I'm gonna do similar to this, but I'm not gonna do it like that, right? So I'm gonna do the decorate here. We're gonna need to import this bad boy, app.log. Super, that is completely correct. And then app.config, we'll need to adjust that a little bit. But I think this is more or less all I need, because now, and the only nice thing about this encapsulation, right, is that we're handling the closing of this in the scope of the plugin itself. So we don't really, once we register this plugin is going to decorate the main Fastify instance, and then it's going to use the built-in hook to, hey, when my server farts out, ensure that the bull MQ connections are closed gracefully, right? So that's very important. So that's one of the nice things here, is that, but I mean, we can still do that kind of here, right? I mean, if we just do the, if we just do a lambda function here, right? And we do this, right? We can technically do something like, give me a second. So we can probably do like can't we do right? And then we can say app dot yeah, right? And then can we do this? I think we can, right? Yeah, because that's more or less what we want, right? So it's almost the same as the plugin system, because we're not going to reuse this plugin anywhere else. We don't have any other instances of Fastify, right? So that's my kind of my take here. Now whatsoever, let's see if our API is still running. It seems to be still running, but let's actually, yeah, so did it fart out? It did fart out, okay. And we just need to do some imports, right? So if I go back if I go back here, we need IO-Redis imported somewhere. So where, I guess it's, yeah, sure. So if we go back here, I think, and that's because we're using Fastify Redis, right? So Fastify Redis. So this is where we set it up, and actually I don't remember how I did that. Give me 2 seconds. Fastify Redis. So if we go back here and take a look at the docs, yeah, yeah, sure, cool. All right, okay. Yeah, so there's a Redis client exposed, right? The main question whatsoever is how do we get the connection, right? Okay, let's figure that out very quickly. It should be fairly simple, I think. And then also this I don't think I'm using app config anywhere, so that is, yeah, I'm not using envs like that. Actually, I'm not using env. I'm not using app. I'm using envs like this. And if we take a look at the Redis here, yeah, okay. So this we will need to change. And actually, instead of passing the options like this, I think we can just pass their actual connection instead, right? So if we do this, we can say connection, obviously Redis 1, right? Yeah, and yeah, we'll get rid of this, and and then if we go here, I think it's going to be something like app.redis, right? Dot, is there like config connect? Yeah, but I don't think there is a connection, is there? Oh yeah, there actually is a app Redis connection. Cool. Can I actually print that? Let's see if that's actually correct. I somehow doubt that. BullMQ. Give me 2 seconds. No. Okay. So that should be fine, I think. It's just, wait, console log gg. Is it one? Ah, okay. Actually, the logs are appearing on top there. Okay, interesting. And then actually one thing, the last thing that we really need to do, I believe, is we need to, if we take a look at this fella over here. Ah, fuck, actually I know, my bad. So no, this is actually fine, that's fine. We need to extend our types, right? So I think somewhere over here, yeah, we need to extend the Fastify instance with BullMQ and then BullMQ wrapper. So if we go to our types over here, we'll extend BullMQ exactly, and then we need to import this fella over here. Yeah, Yeah. Ah, I see what's happening there. What? Private connection? What the fuck? Okay, I see. Oh, I see what's happening. I see. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's what the heck happened there. This dot. Yeah. That was unfortunate. Sure. Okay. So that's all fine, I guess. But is our API still up? It is, which is a bit strange. Because I'm not seeing a log that I'm expecting to see, even though, yeah, we have a service worker enabled in the UI. What I'm actually going to do now, just for the sake of this thing here, I'll go to main. I'm actually going to just reverse this so it doesn't use the service worker. So now it should be hitting our API, just to make sure that and actually one thing I need to do, because I don't think this is working properly now, 100%. Let's actually go ahead and remove these three clustered containers, and let's run this shell script again to run my new containers. Cool. Okay. They should be up. Let's see if it actually works. Yeah. So no, not really. That kind of farted out, I believe. Let's see again. Oh, actually, that did work. I see. So if you take a look at the API, we are okay. So it does work. So that means that, let's close the UI. I don't care. So that technically means that we do actually have access to this. So let's go to the server. And in theory, once we build the app object, we should now be able to say console.log. Yeah, exactly, right? And it is I see. It's a constructor function. That's a little bit weird. That's wrong. I would expect that to be an object, right? So this is slightly weird. Service worker is mock service worker. It's a library. I actually spoke at one part in the stream, so if you want to go watch it later, but I explained the whole workflow of it. Yeah, this is a bit weird. I mean, the result I'm actually getting is a little bit, yeah, not what I expected, but it's okay. It's fine. We'll figure it out now. That's why we're here, to write some code and have fun. Cool. Setup decorators. Yes. So. Yeah, because technically, what we're seeing here, what's been decorated, is not correct, right? BoolMQ should basically have like add job or whatever. So if we try printing that, we're gonna get undefined, exactly. So why is this a function like this? Why is it an anonymous function? It's almost like it's not an object that has been decorated, but some sort of a, let's actually get rid of this just for fun. Okay, and let's actually return an object here that says foo. bar. Yeah, so that there's something off there. It's almost like, wait, what if I say boolmq? Yeah, because you can see we are actually returning this from the decorator, but it's still giving us a function. Interesting. Okay, let me try another thing. So what if I say return full bar? We're still getting that. Very strange. We do an export here. Oh, okay, wait a minute. But it should be fine, right? Set up decorators, yes. boolmq wrapper, that's correct. Okay, actually no, it is correct. We create a new object here, yeah. Let me do a sanity check here. Oh shit, I think this has to be an async function. I think that's the problem. Or is it? All right, never mind. I suppose, actually, wait, I think I actually know. I think I remember now. I think, yeah, I think I remember. Okay, it's just, I guess I'm getting tired a little bit. So this is a function indeed, right? So if we do something like this, test is this, and then we call this function with an empty parameters, right? And then we print the test, then we should get an object that we expect, right? Yeah, exactly, right. And then we get all of the crap here. But I think no, actually what we're getting from this is an instance, it seems, of an app. And then let me just try my hypothesis. Yeah, exactly, right? So I was right. Okay, so so that's kind of shitty, right? So indeed I was correct. So yeah, this add job now, as we can see, it is the function we're referring to, right? So that's not good. Okay. I wanted to simplify it a bit, but it seems it doesn't play well with what I wanted to do. All right, so what we're gonna do then very quickly is we're gonna go back here, and we will unfortunately create the plugin, and we're gonna do it like this just for now, and then I'll change that a little bit over time. So I'm not gonna do it like this. Actually, let's leave this here just as a reference point. Then I'm gonna actually go here and I'm gonna create a new thing called plugins, and there we're gonna say then we're gonna say yeah, in there we're gonna say boolmq.ts. We're gonna save this thing. I think that Fastify plugin should, or I think, wait a minute. If we go back here, I think we need to install this as an external dependency. I don't think it exists as a peer or any other dependency. Okay, let's give it a shot then. So yeah, and then yeah, so this is not going to be correct. We need to adjust it a little bit. So this is going to take Redis connection, I suppose. So it's going to be like, oops. Yeah, but fuck, do I actually have that? I don't think I have Redis installed. That's the problem, yeah. So the type, I don't see how the type is going to work. It's not, right? All right, so let's just say here any. It doesn't really matter just for now. or I'll just say unknown. And then here, we'll, yeah, actually, yeah, that's so weird, man. What the heck, man? Fastify. So let's just say Redis here. Let's see, do they have any types directly in this namespace? What if I say Redis dot? What the fuck is happening? Fastify Redis. Okay, so that's, I suppose what we need here. This what is that exactly? It's instance of Fastify Redis. Okay, I think. Yeah, that's potentially what we need. And then connection is, yeah, we'll see. We need to update that. It's a little bit different. And then when we take a look at the connection, this dot connection dot connection. Wait, let me ask the AI. I'm using Fastify Redis. How do we get the connection string from it? Wow, that's a massive fail. Yes, but I just told you that I'm using Fastify Redis, not IO Redis library. All right, I see. So we need to install IO Redis. That sucks ass. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of sucks, but I guess, yeah. All right, so you know what? Let's it's almost midnight here. Let's actually chat a little bit if there's people needing some help. I'm very happy to answer questions, and then we can continue maybe tomorrow or some other time. How long have I been streaming? 2.5 hours. So let's yeah, any folks, my friend, you coming to the office tomorrow, buddy? I hope you do. I missed you today, man. Awesome, dude. Perfect. Let's have a chat, guys. If you need any help, any of you, if you need anything, I'm very happy to give some opinions, whatever that might be. Feel free to ask, especially if you're new to this stream. Actually, even more, I incline you to ask whatever you need. And of course, don't feel pressured. You don't have to. So if there's anything you're interested in and you care about, please ask. Very happy to chat a bit. And then I will actually finalize this on my own, and then we do something tomorrow, something different. Alrighty, well that's interesting. Maybe there's simply no more questions. We had a huge discussion, so we spoke about a lot of things. Okay, there's a question. Good. So okay, so the question is: are there any drawbacks of using context API instead of Redis? I'm not sure. Shoot them. What do you mean? Which? I'm not following. Are you referring to context API and React? Oh, sorry. Yeah. No worries. I'm tired as well. Are there any drawbacks? I mean, so So if the state is like super simple, there's no drawbacks, right? So for example, if so let's imagine that this boilerplate that I've created, right, remains only having like a let's say a logged in user in its state, and then maybe a theme, like a dark or light theme. So if the state remains manageable, then there's really no drawbacks, right? But once the state becomes more complex, right, and you want to handle it separately, right, and have a nicer API to work with it, then something like Redux makes sense. The beauty of Redux is that a state machine that is based around transitions, right? So for every action you do, so for example, especially Redux RTK, like the newer API, not the old Redux, but Redux RTK. The beautiful thing about Redux RTK is that you get these builder cases for each one of your asynchronous actions. So for example, you can say, you can say in your reducer, you're gonna have these actions that you're gonna build, and for each actions you have 3 states. You have a pending state, a successful state, and a rejected state. Basically, like it's based on a promise states, right? A promise can be pending, can be rejected, can be fulfilled, right? So the drawback is that when your state becomes complex enough, then you do want to have something like Redux, because yes, it's a little bit boilerplatey. You're gonna write a little bit more code, but it's gonna make sense. So if you need to manage complex state, then you need a better tool that helps you manage complex state. But if you don't need to do that, if you kind of manage to have a minimum amount of global state, which you should always try, your goal should always be to keep state to minimal. And in fact, I would even incline you to, or suggest that you avoid caching as much as possible, right? Because I can see a lot of people, especially younger developers, when they're using useQuery and a lot of these libraries, right? They're like, oh yeah, it supports caching out of the box, right? Caching is very difficult. Caching is really hard to do. And in many cases, you don't want to cache things, especially where data can change and that change matters to a user, right? So in simple words, I think you should use APIs which are as simple as possible until you need necessity. So instead of prematurely optimizing it, oh, let me start with all of these layers of caching and auto retries and stuff, start with basic HTTP client library, like generate it like we did using OpenSpec API generator, or use Axios or whatever. And then as you learn more about the use cases of your application, tackle these specific cases manually. So I need to cache this page because this page, likelihood of this thing changing is minimal. So for example, it's not untypical to cache the logged in user, right? Because what is the chance that the logged in user is going to change their name or whatever every day? Very, very less likely. But so these are the strategies that are not generic, or they're very custom depending on the application, right? But fundamentally, anyway, you should start always simple and then introduce a complexity when it's needed, not the other way around. You cannot start a Hello World app introducing 16 different tools just because one day you might need them, right? That is a very flawed mentality, and nobody should be building software like that, right? Yeah. I hope that makes sense, shoots them. My pleasure, but keep things simple. Managing state is the hardest thing, one of the hardest things after caching in programming, especially managing multiple sets of state on different ends. So your goal and obsession should always be, how can I make this as stupid as it possibly can be, because it's hard, right? It's perfectly fine that it's fetched. People don't refresh single page apps. That is the whole point of using single page apps, amongst, of course, many other points, but it's not refetched on every, like there's no reason why somebody would refresh a single page app, right? It's not a static page. It's a page where only pieces of view change and render. That is the whole selling point of rendering. All the rendering fuzz that we talk about is that we compute as less UI as possible, right? And even if it was fetched on every request, let's even imagine that that was the case, then you would cache that. So that would be a good candidate for caching, right? Yeah. Again, you have to. My last advice when it comes to this. You have to understand that your database and your API, when you don't have users, absolutely don't care if you refetch something, right? This is a huge mistake that a lot of younger developers or less experienced developers are making. Your concern shouldn't be for a very long time, does your UI refetch something, right? Especially something as arbitrary as getting a user by ID from a database, right? So this is not to say, like, we're talking here about being pragmatic, right? So I'm not saying that striving for quality I'm not saying these things are mutually exclusive. You should always strive to make things good, but you should not also obsess by these details, especially when building initial products, MVPs, something that you want to see if it has traction, because for a very, 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 very long time, your performance is something that you will not even think back of your head. So this is very, very important to mature as a software developer, to mature and to understand how to build apps. You have to understand that performance initially is the least important thing. Absolutely least. You can host any app that you've built now on a $2 hosting, and it's going to work flawlessly for a very long time, simply because you don't have the users. And getting the users is very, very difficult, right? Because you have to build something of value, and building something of value today in a sea of billions of products being built as we fart every day is very, very difficult, right? So instead of focusing on these micro details, right, focus on the macro picture of the thing that you're building, and try to figure out, how can I onboard some people to actually try out my application, right? Performance and shit that all of these content creators are talking about, most of them have never actually built anything in their lives, which is why most of them talk this garbage, especially to younger audience, which seems to be catching on these concepts like a fly that flies on shit, right? So these things are so irrelevant at the beginnings of the product that you should not care. It's fine that you refetch every single thing every single time. Your database is so efficient that it doesn't care 2% about it, right? Your basic API, the shittiest API that you write, let's say Node.js, can handle, let's say, several thousand requests a second, right? And you have no users or one user or 5 users, right? So it's a basic algebra, right? So just build things and optimize them as you see fit, versus over optimizing them and then having no value at all, right? So that should be everyone's goal all the time. Hopefully that makes sense. Cool, great. Anyone else? Any other interesting remarks? Please, I'm very happy to share my opinions, and as you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, and most of them stink. So be careful about opinions. Yeah, developers, nerds. And imagine I decided to build a social platform for developers. And look at the people. Everybody's so shy. That is my biggest mistake, assuming that nerds will be social. I shoot myself in the knee the moment when I thought about that, didn't I? Or in the face even. Social platform for developers. That is a paradox, isn't it? Building a social platform for the most unsocial group of people on earth. If I'm not brave, then nobody is, right? If I didn't shoot myself with a shotgun directly in the face, nobody did, right? Imagine the person. Social platform for developers. Cool story, bro. Sounds like a good idea. What can go wrong? What can go wrong, right? Definitely. Everybody knows that developers are so social. Winsword, hey buddy. Yeah, what can go wrong? Like, I mean, yeah, exactly. But I'm brave enough to continue, and I will. That's just how it is. At least it's fun, so yeah. Awesome, fellas. What can I say? As always, thank you very much for being here. I wish you well. Work hard. Compare yourself to yourself how you were the day before. Don't fall for programming propaganda on the internet. Work on yourself. Spend your time in a way that benefits you, that values you, that think of yourself as a product. So if you have an idea of spending 3 months learning Vim, probably you can spend your time learning some other skill that somebody cares about and is willing to pay you for. Be proactive, not reactive. Don't bitch about things that you can't affect or make better. And if you do complain about things, make sure to provide solutions. And if you follow some of these basic tips and some basic Stoic philosophy, I'm sure your path to whatever, getting your first job or getting a raise or whatever, is going to become a lot better. So just build things. That's the best way to learn. That is the only, in fact, way to showcase your skills, is to show what you're capable of. As my friend said a couple of years ago, everybody can say it, very few can do it. So if you are wondering what you should do to showcase the things that you know, build things and focus on yourself, and don't waste time surrounding yourself by negative people, negative streams, negative YouTubers, negative TV shows. Just surround yourself with good people, positive people, and network. As I said at the start of the stream, many of you are failing to network properly online. Many of you here are using these shitty fake names on Twitch. I don't actually know who you are. I don't know, some of you will disappear. I'll never see you again. That's a shame. You should be networking with each other. You should become more social, and because, believe it or not, the most effective hack in getting a job in this industry or being successful is networking, is leaving a good impression, is making contacts. And without that, it's going to be very tough. All of us, myself included, when we are looking for new jobs, we are always referred by previous colleagues we worked with, by previous CTOs, previous founders, and that gives us a huge edge over those people that don't have these references. So if you're wondering what you can optimize, that is obviously start networking, start talking to other developers, build things together, learn things together, because a bunch of you are in the same boat, and you need to build up your social skills. Without social skills, you'll get nowhere in life, especially today in this industry when coding skills, unfortunately, are getting a little bit diminishing returns. You will your personality and social skills are gonna raise massively in value. So remember that, and go out, join meetups, join events online, talk to people on chat like here. This Twitch chat is a great way to socialize, join Discord channels, etc. And anyway, I wish you best. Thank you very much again for being here. I'm gonna round up now, and I'm gonna go and lay down a bit and then go and sleep. I need to go to work tomorrow. Have a good one. My pleasure, man. Thank you very much. And you see, it's not hard to send a message. I don't know who you are anyway. So just send a message when you're here. It takes a second and means a lot to me, knowing that there's actual human beings behind the screens there. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow or some other day. You know me, I might stream tomorrow or in 2 weeks. I never know. Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for saying something. I'll catch you guys up tomorrow, okay? Peace out, everybody. Sleep well and have a good day. Good night. My pleasure. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.